Demand forecasting. Definition. According to Evan Douglas, demand forecasting may be defined as the process of finding values for demand in future time period. In the words of Confidential, demand forecasting is an estimation of sales during a specific period based on proposed marketing plan and set of particular uncontrollable and competitive prices. Here the based on the marketing plan, how the product is taken up and the future demand of the particular product is find out. We have plan based on that controllable measures and uncontrollable and competitive measures are there. Definitely we have some constraints based on that how we plan for that particular product is taken. Introduction. Estimation of future situation is known as forecasting. It is also referred to as sales forecasting as it involves anticipating the future sales figures of an organization. It is it is not only have a positive note, it has both positive as well as negative note. If forecasting is not accurate, it creates a huge loss. If it ends in a positive way, it leads to a huge profit for an organization. This is all more important when there's a large scale production of good. Once the demand has been forecast, the manager will to have the plan to raw materials which will be required and the labor and the machinery which will be needed. The necessary finance will also have to be obtained. Importance of demand marketing. Even though it is smaller or larger scale for it should be expanded. For larger scale demand, it should be expanded in a way like introducing new products on based on the market condition. For these, the first important step is planning. To expand an industry, it should be properly planned. Next is raw material. For expanding the industry, raw source of raw material should be found out for expanding. Next is fund management. Amount of money required for the introducing of new products or expanding of the industries, which cannot be done easily without money. So the proper fund management should be take place. Next is pricing of the product. In industries we have too many competitors, so based on them the price of the product should be made under. All this to be done carefully for the forecasting. Stages in forecasting demand. First is specification of objectives. Objective of industries, whether it is short or long term, should be identified. Next is selection of appropriate technique based on the cost, time and labor availability. Next is collection of appropriate data. When all these are done, based on this interpretation of results take place. When the next after the interpretation of results, evaluation of forecasting is done. Once all are done, the evaluation of forecasting is completed. Factor influencing demand forecasting. Prevail first one is prevailing to economic condition. Whether the knowing the demand of the users, whether it is necessary or luxurious product on that particular time. Next is existing condition of an organization or an industry. Whether the organization is running in a profit condition or it is in a huge loss or whether it required an rehabilitation. Next is market condition. While introducing a product, whether the market is favorable on our side and the existing condition of the market should be noted down. Competition. Next step is competition. We have many competitors in industries for when we launch a product. So level of competition in particular industry should be noted. Then import and exports. Whether the required quantity to be produced for importing and exporting the product. When these all conditions are examined and the appropriate forecasting technique is being chosen out. Next is method of demand forecasting. There are three methods: consumer survey method, expert opinion method and market experiment method. First, the method of forecasting demand. To forecast the demand for a good, there are many methods. In choosing the appropriate method, the forecaster has to keep certain things in mind. These include costs and the level of accuracy. When the level of accuracy required is high, then the more sophisticated and advanced method are needed, which are relatively more expensive. The time limit is also important in which the forecast is to be preferred. First, in consumer survey method, we have three things. First is direct interview, complete enumeration, and sample survey. In direct interview method, a selected group of the users or the potential consumers are asked directly about their future plans for the good. The survey may be conducted in number of cities. The consumer may be asked about their demand for the product at different prices, and their willingness to buy the product at different price may be taken into account. Next is complete enumeration. In this method, all consumers of the product are surveyed regarding their preferences about the product and their future plans. If there is an increase in the price of the product, the quantities specified by the different consumers are analyzed and tabulated to arrive the total demand of the goods. Next is sample survey. In this method, only a few consumers are selected from the relevant market or for the good. The consumers may be selected on a random basis or through a sampling method. These consumers are then surveyed either through direct interview or mailed questionnaires. Questions which are asked from them may relate to the income, the demand, and the price of the good, whose demand is being forecasted, and the price of the other competing goods. The data which is gathered is classified, tabulated, and then analyzed to determine the demand of the consumers. The information so collected is then considered to be applicable to the all consumers of the product. As compared with complete enumeration method, this technique involves sampling survey is a less time consuming and less expensive way of collecting the information. Also, data errors are fewer. Next method is expert opinion method. In this method, the opinion of expert is taken to forecast the demand for the product. The experts may be the form of firm itself. For example, the sales manager who has the sufficient knowledge about the market. Alternatively, the experts from the outside the firm. Some marketing experts and consultants, firms who are specially trained for such tasks. First one is survey of the sales force. A firm may sometimes seek the opinion of its sales representative in assessing the future demand for the good. These executives are in close touch with the market and the condition prevailing in the market. The information gathered from the various sales representative is then compiled to arrive at the estimated of the demand. This method is not only simpler but also less expensive than the other methods of collecting the information. Also, it motivates the sales representative to achieve the targets which they had predicted regarding the forecast of demand. However, there are some problems here is in that these representatives may often overstate or understate the forecast depending on the situation. Thus, it is necessary that some corrections are made to these forecasts before arriving at total forecast. Next is Delphi technique. In this technique, the opinion of a group of experts is taken up about the future demand for the product. Their divergent views are then put forward to them in light of which they are then asked to revise their opinion. This process is repeated again till they arrive at consensus, which then forms the final forecast of the demand for the good. Empirical evidence shows that in the USA, this technique is widely used and is very successful. Also, it is less expensive than the other techniques. The other method is market experiment method. It has been noticed quite often in the consumer survey that the behavior of the consumer may differ from what he actually conveys in a survey. Market experiments can overcome this problem to some extent. Two marketing experience use often arise for. First one is controlled experiments. Here, a sample of consumers from the targeted group is requested to visit a particular shop of the firm where the different brands of the good are on sale. The consumer is given relevant information about the different brands from a fixed amount of money given to each consumer. They are asked to make their purchase of the good. Their preferences may be recorded in a questionnaire filled by them. It is possible that the experiment may be repeated after changing the price of the good. The firm may use this information to estimate the demand for the good. As compared with the survey method, the controlled experiment method is better since the consumer has to make the actual decisions, while in the survey method, he is simply stating his intentions about the purchase of the good. However, the problem here is that there may be a bias involved in the selection of the sample of the consumers. Generally, the controlled experiments technique is used as a supplement to other techniques. Next is test marketing. In this method, a test area selected which represent the market where the firm has to launch a new good. This test area may be in the form of a few towns or cities. The new good is introduced in the area and the response of the consumers is assessed. Different type of models of new good
can be introduced in different areas. The responses in these different areas can be compared before taking a final decision regarding the forecast of demand. The major problem with test experiment is that they are very expensive and time consuming. Often it is difficult to select an area as a representative of the potential market for the good to be launched. Also, once the good enters the market, the response of the consumer to the counterattacks by the competitors cannot be judged by test marketing method. Next, conclusion. There are many methods by which the forecasts of demand for good can be done. The different methods have their own pros and cons. As to which method should be used differ from situation to situation. Most important is the purpose for which forecasts are being made. An analyst has to be very careful in choice of the technique. A technique of forecasting demand should be chosen such that it can be applied to the data which is available and also convenient to handle. But whatever the technique used, the judgment of the analyst is crucial at different stages of forecasting in the interpretation of data and then using it for making the future projections. It is analyst who has to make the judgment. Thank you. Nishant from final year Civil Engineering.